This Jewish man went beast mode. Take a look.
Clinton, or you supported Hillary Clinton, you supported Barack Obama. Not surprising that you also support ISIS, just like Obama did in Syria, by the way.
I'd like to move on to our next and final section.
No, you have to let me respond to his idiocy. It's interesting you talk about me supporting Hillary Clinton, which I didn't. I was actually a Bernie Sanders supporter, which is interesting because so were you. And I know you don't like when people remind you of that fact because it makes you look like an idiot. I am at least able to admit that I was 18 and I was naive, and then I had a functioning brain and was able to actually see that terrorist groups like the Houthis that call death to America, which you yourself have admitted is part of their slogan, is pretty bad. And again, it's interesting you talk about the need to strip Americans of their citizenship. I live in America. I voted for President Trump. I campaigned for President Trump. You currently live in Russia. Okay, so you don't have the ability to start questioning people's patriotism. Why don't you come back to the United States and stand trial for all the federal investigations for providing material support to terrorist organizations? And again, if you can please provide 2 pieces of evidence as to how Zaid Hassan, a 13-year-old boy, was part of ISIS, which doesn't even operate in Gaza, that would be great. If you're able to provide the list of civilian casualties in the Korean War, that would be great. If you are able to provide the combatant to civilian ratio in the Gaza-Israeli war, that would be great. If you're able to provide the names of 3 clans that are currently operating in Gaza, that would be great. But you can't. Why? Because again, you have the intellectual capability of a folding chair. You are not able to respond to arguments. You're not a debater. You're a hack who says dumb shit on Twitter for money. So enjoy Russia. I will continue to enjoy my life in the greatest country of all, the United States of America, and any terrorist group that you simp to, whether it's the Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas, Iran, I will loudly stand against. And I speak on behalf of millions of Americans when I say, take your communist Russian Houthi ass and stay in Moscow.
Whoa.
You know, it's interesting you say that you trust the Trump administration because anyone can go on your Twitter account where you explicitly state that you stand with Kim Jong-un, you stand with the Ayatollah who actually tried assassinating President Trump. You are emphatic that you're a communist. So I voted for President Trump. I campaigned for President Trump. I've spoke at the Republican convention. I spoke at Trump rallies. I registered voters. You're living in Moscow as a self-described communist. You prop up dictators who hate America. You have not found a Middle Eastern terrorist who there's a reason you're living in Moscow. It's because no one in America wants you. So go back to Twitter. You're not an expert. You don't know what you're referring to. You can't name not even one gang in Hamas because all you believe in is anti-West, anti-American, and obviously anti-Semitic narratives. And that's what makes your income, which again, go for it. But don't try to pretend that you're some geopolitical expert when you know nothing about the Middle East. I believe in freedom and democracy for all peoples in the Middle East. For whatever reason, you decided to align yourself with radical Islamic jihadists who kill 13 and 11-year-old boys.
Okay, Shabbos, I want Jackson to respond, and then I'm going to move on to the next section. A quick response.
Well, I mean, it's hilarious hearing this come out of your mouth because you're the one that lied, stating that there was a higher proportion of children killed in the Syrian war, in the Vietnam War, and in the Korean War than there was in Gaza. But you've been corrected on that. I think you now understand that's not true. Hopefully, Katie Halper corrected you on that. But the truth of the matter is you're not American. You're a first-generation American. You've never denied that you have dual citizenship. I don't know if you do. Maybe you don't.
I'm not a dual citizen.
Intending on getting it, but the overwhelming majority. Wait, I didn't interrupt you. The overwhelming majority of the American public does not support what Israel's doing. It does not support continuing to fund Israel. It does not support the fact that Israel employed Jeffrey Epstein to get politicians into blackmail rings with child sex traffickers to control our politicians. The overwhelming majority of Americans reject what you are, what you embody. And at the end of the day, you're really not an American, maybe by passport, but not in spirit.
Sure.
Moving on to the next question now, gentlemen, please.
Let me respond and then we'll move on. I won't be taking civic lessons from someone who's currently living in Russia.
Who paid for those trips to Israel, by the way? Because you were meeting with government officials, you spoke in the Knesset, you met with the foreign ministry. I find it very interesting how many times you're going to Israel and you're specifically going there to try and convince American youth to be pro-Israel. You're pushing this propaganda on the American public, the American youth. But again, they're rejecting it because it's not in the American DNA.
Sure. So first of all, my meeting with the foreign minister of Israel was actually in New York. And if you want to talk about meeting with foreign dictators or individuals who hold anti-American hostilities, can you please articulate why it is you went to Iraq to meet with the Sayyid al-Shuhadi Brigade, which is an internationally designated terrorist group? So that's number one. Number two, I'm not a dual citizen. If you
I'll explain that
any other country, but you'll do it when I'm done talking. If you can prove that I'm a dual citizen of any country country, I will give you $500,000. And if you can't prove it, then you give me $10,000 and I'll donate it to a charity of your choice. I can also say dumb shit. Can you prove that you're not under investigation? Although you actually are, which again is why you're living in Moscow. And when it comes to civilian death tolls, it's actually interesting because the Gaza-Israeli war has the lowest combatant to civilian death ratio of any modern war fought in modern warfare. And not only that, it actually has the lowest casualty count of any war fought in modern warfare. And you mentioned Korea, for example. Do you know how many civilians were killed in the Korean War?
Well, the numbers fluctuate greatly depending on who you ask.
I'm asking you, how many?
I'm not a historian on the matter. I mean, the numbers fluctuate greatly. Even when you look at the question of child deaths, child casualties in the Korean War, there are debates about whether or not, they're including the numbers of child soldiers, for example. So there's a lot of discrepancies over that. There's really no clear answer.
Give it up for Shabbos Kestenbaum, who I consider, and I hope he doesn't take offense to this, the Ben Shapiro 2.0. You know, Ben Shapiro is doing his show now. He doesn't do that many debates, but now we have Shabbos Kestenbaum. And, both, I think, graduated from Harvard. So, maybe he has that gene in him. Here is another clip from that debate, again, with Jackson Hinkle, an anti-American, pro-Houthi, grifter.
When you keep calling them ISIS gangs, can you name 3 of the gangs? What are their names?
I cannot name the gangs, no. Can you name 3 of the Palestinian resistance organizations?
Easily. Palestinian Islamic Jihad, the Alliance Front, Al-Nusra, Hamas, the Democratic Front for the Liberation of Palestine, the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine. Again, I understand that you generate income by just saying dumb shit constantly, but ultimately you don't know what you're talking about. You have to deny that President Trump said they're ISIS gangs?
Tremendous job by Shabbos Kestenbaum. He knows what he's doing when it comes to debating. And, I really, I wish him the best. I hope he continues to expose these anti-Israel, bordering on Nazi figures like Jackson Hinkle, like, Jake Shields, like a lot of these like weird Groyper types that have emerged ever since October 7th. That are both, on the left and the right at the same time, and they're the definition of the horseshoe theory, which I'm sure many of you guys are aware of. Thank you for watching this video. For more, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. If you believe in what we do here over at Jewish Uncensored, consider supporting us in a few different ways. You can support us monetarily by going to buymeacoffee.com/JewishUncensored. You can also go to our new merchandise store, IsraelUncensored.com, where we just dropped a bunch of new merch. Additionally, to gain access to exclusive content, you can go to our memberships tab on this channel and join there. And finally, you can share this video with both family and friends in order to share this message with the world. Thank you so much for your support.